Hello, Gary Talks. I actually just had a thought that I recorded a video yesterday that I did not post and deleted it because it was like super rambly. So now I know what I'm going to post. And it actually ties to my video that I just recorded about BoJack Horseman. And the video was about context and how when you allow context to be provided so after you handle your emotional reactions to things, and then after it's been a long time of carrying the same story with you, it's what I've learned is allowing for my perspective to widen a little bit more by receiving or allowing someone to tell me the context. So with the BoJack Horseman example was like, he grew up having the experience that he had with his parents, and they were shitty parents to him. He had a tough, time in school. Then like going to Hollywood, he lost his friend, all these things. But what I was sharing in the last video of this like fuller picture of intergenerational trauma, you realize that we can stop with the blame because you can follow the track and the pattern and the threads of why things are happening. So if I think it would be very powerful for BoJack, right, to stop and really sit in his parents' shoes for a second. Like what they did was fucked up, right? They pretty much jacked this person up, is how he feels about it. And like really alter the way he thinks, and like your parents are supposed to love you, right? Everybody deserves to be loved, no matter who you are. And are your parents not loving you is like boo-boo on them. And also it's important to just remember that they're people too. And I think so obviously we're talking about BoJack, but let me give you a real life example about some context. So my childhood, I'm not gonna get into all of these things. I feel like I've talked about it before. And that's actually why I didn't record the video yesterday. I was spending too much time on this story that I don't want to keep telling the same story because it's not relevant anymore. I have a new story for you. And so my old story, like to a degree, I'll get like pieces of it, is like, it's just about my dad is what I wanted to talk about. My dad and I had a strained relationship growing up, like just distant. I live with my mom, so like it was influenced by her storytelling, so things that she had about him, plus like we had experiences where he wasn't like showing up. So like I had a long running story of him being very disappointing in my life, and of him not loving me and me not being deserving of love, which like if I feel that way about him, that means I feel that way about myself. Right? And so for a long time I carried that. Because he didn't spend time with me the way that my mom did, right? So to me, growing up, love languages are very important, y'all. Quality time and acts of service. That's how my mom operates, right? So my dad, he would give me gifts, and we wouldn't spend time together. So to me, he was not showing me that he loved me, pretty much. The way that love languages work, sidebar, if you're not a gifts person, for instance, and your partner is a gifts person, so they can spend like $5,000 on a gift that to them is like this, like epitomizes what I feel and what I want to give you. Or if they created something really beautiful and they want to give it to you, and this is how they're showing it, and then you receive it, and you're like, okay, thanks, but it would have meant more to you maybe if you had gone on a vacation to go somewhere. Or if you had, maybe y'all had gone to a cooking class or something because you were into that. Or if they had written you a long letter, because we have different ways of loving. And so if you're not giving me my love language the way that I receive it, I can accept that it's like affection and love, but it's not going to resonate deep with me. And so with my dad and I not knowing these languages, or like this kind of terminology, throughout our lives have been really strained, distant, wanting to be close, but feeling really awkward and far apart. And I think what has been super, super helpful was this past year when I really sat with him and started like inquiring about my past. My mom told me when I was little that my dad wanted to have an abortion when he first found out. Right? Hearing that is pretty fucked up. It's just like, and all my life people have been like, your mom is like way too honest with you. And I'm like, that's a topic for another video. Transparency versus oversharing. We'll talk about that. But like, I always felt happy that she had told me that, like, so that I know, but also knowing too soon was kind of tough, right? So then I went through the whole worthiness stuff. But then it felt so good to come home to myself, to the understanding when I sat with my dad and he was telling me how he was 26. I live, before moving here-ish, I was living with my dad, and all of my stuff is still there. 25. I'm 25. He was 26 living with his parents. Very similar situation. We couldn't have guests. I can't have guests over. Very much like, he won't really be on me, but he'll be like, where have you been, kind of thing, if he hasn't seen me for a couple days. Also, just like rules and regimented in the house. So thinking about that and allowing myself to be like, he's pretty much exactly where I was, and like knowing how I feel about kids, I think like, given where I am at this very moment, I would love to, like, if I had a kid, I'd be like, oh, maybe, because like I love children, but I'd be worried about my resources. But also, like, if you had caught me a year ago, I'm like, fuck out of here with this kid stuff. Like, no. Also because of fear. Like, first I didn't want a kid, and also fear. And like, and I don't want a kid out of fear too. That's also another conversation. But being able to sit and understand that my dad was 26 years old with this woman that he hasn't really met. Everybody also, they tend to wonder where my parents met. My mom's Taiwanese, my dad is Haitian. They're like, oh, what exotic story. They met at a club in New York.
What an exotic story.
Okay. But like, imagine meeting someone at the club. They want a baby, you don't. You find out about the baby months after they're pregnant. And you're in this situation where you cannot even have guests over or a girlfriend. So like, how are you going to raise a family? Like, I get it. I get it. And I think for me, that was such a powerful shift to like really understand like, oh wait, it's not that my father hated me my whole life. He was operating out of fear. And like, I can't hate somebody for being afraid. And for me, that's been really powerful to allow more of a shift to happen. Like for me to just hold more space for him and understand that he's a person too. And we actually had a really wonderful conversation where I was able to tell him, I think parents have a lot on them. I think I'm not gonna like cut them slack because it's your job. If you're gonna have a kid, you better help to facilitate the best place for them to grow and develop. So that's on you. And also, how hard must it be to like be figuring out your own shit and having this little person looking at you, judging everything, and also taking it in at the same time and depending on you entirely, you know? So, oh, I got a call, so I thought it was gonna hang up. But yeah, that's what I wanted to share. So, hope everybody has a great day. And I'll link the video to my my video talking about BoJack Horseman and its exploration of intergenerational trauma below. So